Hey, it's me, JDS 4696, and today I'm giving a film review for Ant-Man. And this is like another film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and actually the 12th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's basically like, another film based on a Marvel superhero, which I was not really that familiar with. I'm sure I probably like heard of him like a couple times, but I wasn't that big on him. But it's based on the Marvel comic superhero known as Ant-Man. And this film stars Paul Rudd in the role of Ant-Man, and he's also the alias is Scott Lang. That's who he really is, Scott Lang, but he has like the identity as the Ant-Man. But it was like another Ant-Man before him, which was the original Ant-Man played by Michael Douglas. Now his name was I think his name was. Yeah, cause as far as like the Marvel comic superhero goes, the original Ant-Man was known as Hank Pym, and that's who Michael Douglas plays in this film. Like is Hank Pym, and he was supposedly like if you go as far as like the comic books go, he was the original Ant-Man in the comic books, Hank Pym. But then you had like I think it's like three different Ant-Mans in like the actual like comic books, like Marvel comic books. Cause I think the second one is Scott Lang, who Paul Rudd is playing. And the film is directed by I think Peyton Reed, if I'm not mistaken. He's the director of this film. Yeah, Peyton Reed. Now this is like your kind of like your typical like Marvel comics like superhero film. Based on like a superhero who gets. Now he doesn't get granted with any kind of special powers or anything like that. But he takes on like what he is offered to be the Ant-Man by Michael Douglas, like to do like to complete like a heist or something like that. I think it was because the original Ant-Man, which is Hank Pym, the Michael Douglas, he has like this technology that he created that can actually shrink a human, well any kind of thing, like to like a real small size of like an ant, and it's like a technology that he had created, I think back in the '60s, if I'm not mistaken. And he chose like to keep the technology like hidden and only for himself. He don't want anybody to get their hands on it. But it turns out there are like other people, who are like the villains of the film that somehow managed to kind of get their hands on it, I think. And because one of the guys, he actually creates this other version of it known as the Yellow Jacket, and it turns out to be like the villain of the film. But they don't. He doesn't really get that much screen time. And I don't want to spoil it, but he doesn't really get that much screen time as like the villain when he's like in a Yellow Jacket, persona. It's kind of like it's kind of towards the end of the film, actually, not to spoil it. So as far as like the villain go, it wasn't really that, he didn't really have that strong of a presence. It looked like when he was actually like in his, the role, like his main role is not Yellow Jacket. I thought that was kind of more interesting. The guy that played the Yellow Jacket role, I kind of thought that was a little more interesting. Because the guy's name is Darren Cross, and he is a former protege of Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man. And he takes over like Pym's Pym. I think I'm saying Hank Pym or Hank Pym. He takes over like the original Ant-Man's like company and materializes a similar version of the Ant-Man technology, but it is known as the Yellow Jacket. And this turns out to be the villain of the film, and he's played by Corey Stoll. But the actual name of the character is Darren Cross, and he takes on like the Yellow Jacket villain role in the film, which, like I say, it wasn't really like that. Like you see more of Darren Cross than you really see of the Yellow Jacket, But I kind of thought Paul Rudd, I thought he was kind of good, like in the Ant-Man role as Scott Lang. Scott Lang is his real name, and he's Ant-Man, because he's like Scott Lang was a former systems engineer at like a corporation. And he has like a petty criminal background, but he somehow acquires the suit that will increase like his size, but it gave him like more strength as well. He somehow acquires this suit, and then I think Hank Pym learns about Michael Douglas. He learns about him, then he starts trying to train him to be like the so-called Ant-Man, to help him like I think take on the heist or something like that. So at one point in the film, Scott Lang, he breaks into Hank Pym's like I think like a secret like location of the Ant-Man suit, and he steals it and he tries it on, but then he is arrested for breaking into Hank Pym's house. So then Hank Pym he eventually he goes to the jail and see Scott Lang, and he persuades him to become like the Ant-Man with the Ant-Man. Because in this world, you know, it's a part of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so they know about the Avengers and other like superheroes as well, you know. So, you know, it makes sense for him to kind of, you know, kind of understand that the suit can shrink like that. Like, somebody had the technology to make their stuff like shrink real small to like the size of an ant. So he persuades, Hank persuades Scott Lang to become like the new Ant-Man, to steal the Yellow Jacket suit from Darren Cross, who becomes the Yellow Jacket. You know, he persuades him to actually steal that from Darren Cross. But yeah, like in this film, Paul Rudd, he gets out of like jail. Well, Scott Lang, he gets out of jail, you know, kind of towards the beginning of the film. So it turns out that he has like a criminal background, but it's like petty theft, you know. It wasn't really like too major of a thing, if I'm not mistaken. But then he finds out about like the Ant-Man suit, and he does take Hank's advice, you know, Michael Douglas' advice to become like the Ant-Man. But now the Ant-Man suit, I think it's okay. I wasn't really too big on it, you know. I thought it looked okay. The design, I remember when they first released the first trailer for it, I thought it looked like kind of okay. But it's intriguing and interesting to see a superhero that I wasn't really that familiar with, you know. So that's what my interest really was, you know. What could he do? You know what I'm saying? The things he can do, what kind of powers did he have? Because he really doesn't have any like physical, like superpowers, like, you know, as far as like super go. It's really all in a suit. And it is kind of interesting that he can just shrink himself down to like the size of an ant, you know, and then he can control the ants too as well. He can actually have like ants like patrols and stuff like that. He'd be running with them, like fighting them. He can tell the ants to go and do this and that. So I thought I wouldn't mind seeing more of that, like in another Ant-Man film, you know. And I also like how he can be like the size of the ant, and that he can turn big and like boom, he can do like throw like a punch and like a super punch and knock somebody away, you know, it's off or anything like that, or a kick and kind of anything like that, you know. From being like a little ant, he can like turn back to like a big size and then knock him out. And like another thing I know, but they didn't do any of this in this film, but I won't be surprised if they do it like in a sequel or whatever. I heard that the Ant-Man, I think I even seen it, he can actually make his body like larger, like almost like a huge like monster or something, so like Godzilla or something like that. You know, I think he can do stuff like that in the comic books like universe. You know. But yeah, I thought this film was I thought it was okay. You know, I wasn't too like great about it, and it was kind of like it wasn't really disappointing because I was interested in this new superhero that I wasn't that familiar with. But I thought it was okay. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more films, you know, based on the Ant-Man character. But I'm not too big on it, and I thought they could have done like a little more with the villain. You know. And at times, you know, it's kind of like confusing, you know, like what was going on, what was this about, what was this about, you know. But I would recommend if you're like a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course, you know, you need to check it out, you know. Like if you've seen like the Avengers, like the Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, stuff like that, you know. And now they bring a Spider-Man into the universe officially now, you know. It kind of makes sense to actually give us a try, you know, because I still wasn't really that familiar with the Ant-Man superhero. So that's what really intrigued me into wanting to see it, you know, a lot. And another thing, it did have some kind of like spectacular like fight sequences, you know, where like the Ant-Man is using like the technology of the suit where he can shrink himself down. I thought some of those moments were kind of cool because like when he shrinks down to like a small like ant, you know what I'm saying, like the world around him is like all like huge and like, you know what I'm saying, like one scene when he went to like the bathtub, and there's like another scene I could think of too, like I like when he went to the Avengers headquarters and he had a fight with Falcon. Now that to me was like probably one of the funnest scenes in the movie. You know, he had to go to the Avengers like headquarters, and then he had a fight with you know, Anthony Mackie, I think his name, that plays the Falcon. You know, he started like I think it was the second Captain America film, where he has to fight with him, and I thought that was kind of cool because he had to shrink down to like the little size, you know, and then the Falcon was like shooting stuff at him, like flying around, because you know he has like the wings and stuff, but he couldn't catch him or whatever. I thought that was a fun sequence, and plus kind of and like the fight with him in Yellow Jacket, that was kind of cool too. You know, they was fighting like on the toy train set and stuff. I want to spoil it. But other than that, I would only recommend it for like fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I guess if you're a fan of the superhero, because I'm sure there was like a lot of things they altered about Ant-Man, you know, that would make him different from how he was like in the comic book. Because they kind of did that with like Spider-Man and like other superheroes too, you know, like they kind of changed certain things about him, you know, that was like different in the comic book versus how it is in the film, you know. So I'm sure there's things that were altered or changed that wasn't exactly how he was like in the comic books, you know. You also get like the usual cameo appearance from Stan Lee too as well in the film, you know. And I thought Michael Douglas, I thought he was kind of decent in the role of Hank Pym, or Hank Pym. I think I'm saying his name right. I thought he was kind of cool in that role too as well, you know. So yeah, this is my review for Ant-Man. I thought it was okay. I would recommend it, you know, especially like for like Marvel fans, like I said before. And this is JDS 4696, and this is my review for Ant-Man.